All right, for every putt I made today, I get a treat. For every putt I miss, I don't get a treat. Hole 1, yeah, it fell out. Hole 2, it was a spit out, so it counts. Joke's on you, basket. I make my own rules. If I'm happier, I'll make more putts anyways. Here's the next round. What's up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. Most of us have felt like the guy in the intro at one point or another, really feeling like we've got no opportunity to experience joy when it comes to the putting green. And if you've not had a day like that before, well, welcome to the sport. You must be new here. I can't think of a single time that I've gone to Tournament Central and not heard the woes of the round for how many people missed putts or had opportunities that they squandered away. And so we're here today to help solve those problems, because I believe there are 5 common reasons people miss their putts, and hopefully today we can solve all 5. Let's jump right in.
The first reason I think people miss their putts is because of practice. It's easy to say that rounds and tournaments are won on the putting green, and while I agree with that to a certain extent, I don't think that they're necessarily won on the actual greens of the course. In fact, I think one of the easiest places to start winning your next disc golf tournament, which is hopefully a little easier than me opening that gate, in the backyard on the practice putting green. Is it glorious or fun to sit here and practice putt after putt after putt for hours each day trying to improve at the game? No. But it's also not fun to miss those putts when you have to make the putt in moments where it matters. So if you're really trying to improve, your first step to good practice is to simply get out there and do it. You need to be trying to make about 100 putts a day. But really, I just want you to throw 100 putts a day that you feel really good about. Putts that you feel like it just felt fantastic coming out of my hand. Because that is a good putt. Because it's worth noting that yes, while this basket is full of putters, eventually just throwing putts isn't going to actually be meaningful practice for you. I wasn't actually replicating or trying anything that I'm going to do while I'm on a course in a round that has weight or significance to it. Never in my career have I stepped up to a putt that matters and had 5 or 6 discs in my hand and said to myself,
oh yeah, I'm just gonna casually talk through this while I got this whole blob of putters in my hand and just drain it for him.
Now, does that allow me to turn my brain off and just drain it? Yes, but we'll talk about that notion in a little bit. You've heard the phrase before, practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. So whatever your routine is that you like to use while you're out there on the course, make sure that you're practicing that full routine even during your practice rounds. For me, I rarely walk up with 2 putters. So when I'm really trying to dial in my practice, I'll often bring a mini marker and practice setting it down, thinking my normal swing thoughts, stepping up, lining the putt up, 1, 2, and boop, and the disc goes in. Not always, but we're having a pretty good day filming this putting video, which is kind of the case, hopefully, when you're filming putting videos. So find your routine, stick to it, and practice that exact routine. The more you can eliminate the randomness on a putt, the more consistent you're going to find those results to be. If you're finding that you're phenomenal on the putting green and yet you're terrible while you're out there on the course, the odds are it's because you're not actually practicing the right way. Now, the second reason that people miss a lot of putts is confidence. There are 2 types of confidence in putting, and the first being the overconfident player that often finds themselves in some bogey situations or situations they should not be in the first place. And the second type of confidence comes from the player who's done a lot of work, and the first point of this video, practice. Now, I don't think you should spend a lot of time working on your 80 to 90 foot putts. I actually think the place that you should be building the most confidence is in the 10 to 20 foot range. There have been situations before where I've had a 30 foot putt that I've tried to make and not made it or barely made it in and counted my lucky stars. But those are not the putts that I write home to mom about being upset that I missed. Rather, the putts that I get upset with myself for missing are the ones where it feels like I'm 15, maybe 20 feet away from the basket and I'm a little nervous and then I jasper it right into the middle of the cage. Those are the ones that live rent-free forevermore. When I find myself on the putting green and feeling not confident, my body is going to lock up, which is going to cause myself to shorten my stroke, which is not going to give the disc as much power, which is going to cause it to come in lower more often than not. Missing low onto the basket means I didn't give it enough power or I wasn't confident. Missing high on the band is always a pro move. This had a chance, this never did. So Mr. YouTube man, why are you saying to work on 10 to 20 foot putts for confidence? Because if you practice the right way, you're going to build that confidence to know what a good 10 and 20 foot putt feels like. And if you're making all of your putts from 10 and 20 feet, I can almost guarantee that you're going to score well in rec, novice, all of the amateur divisions. But the biggest perk of being confident on 20 foot putts is that confidence leads to the next putt as well. When I have complete confidence in myself and trust the putting stroke that I've practiced, I can step up and be a little more aggressive on longer putts, because if I miss, I know that I still have a chance to make the putt coming back because I've practiced that 20-foot putt on the other side. When you're putting scared, your body is going to show it and your results on the scorecard are going to show it as well. But there is an area that can mess with your confidence. The third reason people miss their putts is focus. There are a multitude of things that you could focus on while you are on the putting green. It could be your putting stroke, the moisture on your hand, the wind, the birds chirping all around you. Or if we think back to our junior days, there are some people who still haven't discovered a use for deodorant. Where you focus has tremendous impact on where your putt is going to go. If you focus on throwing your putt short, odds are you're going to miss short. If you focus on hitting the band, you're going to put it exactly where you're thinking. So where are you supposed to focus? The obvious answer is the basket, where we want the disc to land. But sometimes just focusing on the basket itself isn't enough, and that's where the sponsor of today's video comes in handy. DiscDot is the home of putting education, and it's a great tool to help you find your focus on the basket. This easy to use, movable target simply clips onto a single chain link, which is exactly what you could be focusing on while you're putting on the basket. One of my favorite ways to practice with a DiscDot is to not only have it on the front chains, but also to flip the chains to the back and focus on my target being on the back side as well. This allows me to follow through on my stroke and putt through the basket rather than giving it just enough energy to get to the basket. So if you want to be like some of the best putters on the Pro Tour, make sure that you check out DiscDot over at discdotusa.com. It's a fantastic way to spice up your putting game and to help you stop missing those putts. Clip that dot on the basket and it's as easy as focus, putt, and repeat. Now the fourth reason people miss their putts is a little different and something a lot of people don't talk about necessarily when it comes to putting, and it's your fingers. What am I supposed to do with these? When focusing on your putt, people are quick to talk about your weight shift or the swing. Are you a spin putter? Are you a push putter? There's all sorts of things to go into it. And often grip is mentioned, but we don't spend a lot of time talking about what the fingers actually do on the disc. Let's start with the thumb. The thumb is often used to generate tension on the disc so that the other fingers can serve their role in a more powerful way. After all, there's only one thumb and 4 other fingers. They're going to have a whole lot more involvement. But if the thumb is just lackadaisically laying on top there, I need you grammar people to help me out in the comments below. It's not going to help in any way whatsoever. It doesn't have to be very near to the rim, and it doesn't have to be way out in no man's land either. Just a nice comfortable place where you can feel a bit of tension so that the other 4 fingers can do their job. Next, we're going to work on these 3 fingers because the pointer finger is the most preferential of them all. A lot of people think that these 3 fingers are simply there to hold the disc flat in place, but we actually want them to be a little bit curled underneath the disc so that even if you are spin putting or you find yourself push putting, these fingers can extend while we're throwing the disc. If my fingers are already fully extended under the disc, it's hard for them to generate any power and utilize the tension that's being generated from the thumb. Simply taking these fingers and curling them in a little bit is going to create so much more power on the disc. It's going to come out cleaner every single time. See? It just goes in the basket. Now lastly, let's talk about numero uno, the pointer finger. The pointer finger or index finger rests in one of three locations. The first is on top of the disc, the second is slightly underneath, and the third is fully submerged. Depending on where it rests, it's gonna serve one of two purposes, or if it's living in the middle ground, you guessed it, it's gonna be pulling double duty. If your finger's primarily resting on the top, the goal of the index finger is to guide the disc and become an aiming factor. It stops the disc from going too far to the right to send the disc in a forward direction. If you go on the opposite end of the spectrum and you're fully underneath, that most likely means that you're a push putter, because this finger now serves as a power conduit to add even more push underneath the disc to get it up and spinning once all of those fingers fully extend and engage. And you guessed it, if your finger's living in the middle position, you're using it to generate a little bit of that power, but it still stays in that aiming reticule. Now that's a lot to be focusing on. Primarily, I'd call it
a few moments later.
5 things to be focusing on. And when you add that on to trying to putt confidently and also focus, you get distracted and you jasper it once again right into the cage. So make sure that you're taking time to head back to that practice green, remember what your fingers are doing, and get that practice stroke in, and that's going to inspire confidence. And when you have that confidence, then all you have to focus on is that single chain link, which means you're going to be draining buckets, which then means that people are going to be super impressed with you, and you're going to be on the putting green and people are going to be like, oh man, I wish I was as good a putter as Josh. Josh is the best putter of all time. If you guys haven't figured out, these all kind of build on one another. You can't have a bad putting day one day, be a bad putter, and then just wake up tomorrow and decide,
yeah, I'd like to be a better putter today.
Which takes us to our final reason that a lot of people miss putts, because we're also running out of daylight. So I guess we better speed this up. I got one. The final reason is one of the hardest to deal with if you're in the middle of it. And honestly, for most people that this applies to, they probably didn't even make it to this point in the video because they've heard all that other stuff and that applies to everyone else. But they're different. They're bad at putting because they live and die by excuses. One of the biggest compliments you can tell me is that I'm a good putter, because I know what it takes and the time and effort that I've put in to trying to become a good putter. And no, it doesn't go in the basket every single time, but I have made sure I know what my putt feels like when I'm dialed and on top of it. And in fact, the first time that I sought out a coach over a year ago was when I went to Mike Strauss and said, hey, I need you to work on my putt. And when he started fixing it, let me tell you guys, it was not easy.
Hey Mike, so the biggest thing that I'm noticing is I feel like I lost a lot of my consistency within 25 and in. When I'm doing this motion, pronating, the opposite of pronating, it's blanking on my mind, supinating. So when I get to the 40 footers, really difficult to have any consistency or power or run at it at all. Once again, I don't know if inconsistency is coming from being new to it, lack of confidence, what it is.
He saw my frustration, gave me stuff to work on, and after 2 days of trying to put in effort to become a better putter, I came back at him with even more disgust and even more rage, and thankfully he's a really great guy.
Hey Michael, just wanted to film a video. I think I've regressed even more as I'm focusing on the weight shift. This feels really far away from what I was doing before, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Just trying to figure out if I'm like changing my putt entirely. But yeah, so I think there's just like a huge blow to confidence. Really look forward to documenting this part of the journey. Honestly, I think is the most fascinating part so far, what it means to take a step back and still trying to keep your identity of your putt.
So no, I've not always been a great putter. And because I put in that time and that effort, it doesn't take a lot for me to get back into the groove of things when things feel off, because there are few things in my game that I've worked on as much as my putt. When you step up to a putt, no matter the situation, you need to take your mini, place it on the ground. Assess the conditions, the wind, the terrain, if there are any obstacles in your line of your putt. Take those those factors, place them into your routine because you've practiced with a lot of these conditions before, and eliminate everything else. The more things that you try to focus on, the lower your chance becomes of making the putt. If you can take those factors, assess them, add them into the practiced putt that you know, line it up, get ready, and boom. I wish I could tell you that it's an easy road to become a great putter, but if you're not willing to put in the time or the hard work, congratulations. You get to stay in category 5 of excuses, and you'll stay there for as long as you want. I don't want you to be stuck there. I want you to come join me where we're having a blast on the putting green, taking the same score because we made our putts and the guys throwing 450 and 500 didn't make theirs. Although it would be nice to throw a 450 or 500, but that series and grind starts next week. I do believe there are limiting factors to body types and other things that are going to hinder distance, but I also believe anyone can be an amazing putter that's willing to put in the time and effort and move past the excuses, own their journey, and say, I've got this. I'm about to make some putts. So as the daylight dwindles, so does our time together in this video. And I'm sorry, Mikey, for the fluorescent orange overhead light. You've taught me better than this.
Sorry, Sensei.
I don't want you to be stuck in any of these categories, and I didn't start putting the quack on putts so that it would haunt you and your friends through all of your rounds. I want you guys to be as amazing as possible, because there's few things as awesome as hitting a putt so big the rest of your card's like, oh snap. Is that person an open player? They a professional. So I hope this video is helpful. If there are tips that you've received to help you stop missing some putts, let us know in the comments below so that this can be a resource to as many people as possible. As always, I want to say thank you for watching and thank you for choosing to come spend time here on the Robbie C Disc Golf channel. I hope you have an amazing rest of the week. But for now, I'm going to leave you with the birdie.